We need to give Americans a product they can love. Figure they can rally behind.
We can't put a machine on the street.
Give your mom a kiss.
My baby.
Too slow, boy. We're gonna put a man inside a machine.
Hey everybody, it's What the Flick. Christy Lemire, Alonzo Duralde, Matt Atchity, Ben Mankiewicz. It's a remake week, remake of 80s movies. And what year was the original? 87?
87.
87 for the original RoboCop. It's back.
It's back, just in time for Valentine's Day. There's nothing as romantic as a cop who gets mostly killed, mostly dead, and gets brought back as a cyborg and has to figure out if he's actually still human. Let's watch the clip.
Let's go with black.
Quality control, EM 208.
He's coming.
The effects are pretty damn cool. I have to say, it's very shiny. It's very shiny and gleaming and very seamless with the CGI. There's some kind of startling images when he's only got parts of him going on.
Under that suit? Yeah,
right. I mean, it's very
creepy.
striking.
The original one is a classic, and it's a satire, and it's ultra-violent, and this movie is PG-13, and it's sort of flirts with the idea of being about things like drones or, Fox News. But, I think it wisely doesn't try to be a super faithful remake, which would have just led them down the path to perdition. But I don't know that what it does instead is all that interesting.
I think that it goes halfway on the things it's about, right? It's got like a little social commentary on drones and a little bit on Fox News. I thought what was I thought it started very effectively. I thought the scenes in Tehran in the beginning of the movie, where essentially we use these robotic soldiers now to
stop and frisk.
To stop and frisk and control a population we've invaded without any risk to soldiers. And so there's this interesting conversation of, hey, if no Americans die, it's right? Like it's good no matter what. And and we see what can go wrong, and a kid is in jeopardy, and they can't distinguish between a knife that can't possibly hurt anybody without a lot of trouble and a gun. So it's flawed, but nobody's acting like it's flawed, and they want to bring this technology to America. Like, why is it crazy that we're not using this on our streets to pacify American cities? So, however long that opening was before we get into Detroit and the cop who becomes RoboCop, I thought for 16 minutes, I said to Christy, I was totally into that. Like, that was a great open. I thought a really strong open. And then it just turned into, like a straight-ahead action movie. And half measure after half measure.
But it kind of wants to have its cake and eat it too, ideologically, I think, because it wants you to revel in the violence, the PG-13 carnage that RoboCop creates. Like, it's fun, it's choreographed beautifully, it's noisy, whatever, it's very shiny. But then it also wants to have its commentary about free will is really a good thing, and it'd be bad to have RoboCop all the time.
That's what's disappointing about this movie, is the first movie is really sharp and has some great subtext throughout the whole movie, and it's funny. But it's got a lot of points to make, not just about violence in movies, but about the way we consume media and corporate control of government and that kind of thing, and weirdly kind of predictive of maybe how things are now. This one, there's the subtext in the show that Sam Jackson is doing, and then it kind of abandons that. And so you think it's going to flirt with these points, and it never really does. It's just this straight-ahead, sci-fi flavored action movie, and it's fine.
And the Sam Jackson plays essentially Bill O'Reilly, but black with an Irish name, and but that doesn't, like, that joke and that sort of and that satire is just, again, it's flat. It's like, oh, look, it's cool. They got Sam Jackson to do a Bill O'Reilly character. And then it feels very ordinary.
I mean, and I'm sure it was integrated throughout the film, but you could take all those scenes out
and not affect the rest of the movie because they're so this other thing, you know.
He didn't meet one other actor.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, I think one. I think Michael Keaton's on set, but that's about it. The thing that I think really makes this movie a problem is that you don't really ever get to know who this cop is before all the shit goes down. So Alex Murphy is presented as a clean Detroit cop and a loving father and husband. That's kind of it. And then suddenly he's a robot. And then his wife, who we've also barely gotten to know, except that she loves her husband, is very concerned about the fact that she doesn't see him or she doesn't seem to recognize him at times and the things, blah, blah. And it's like, we need to be more invested in who the people are to care about what happens to them later.
Wouldn't it be interesting if we'd gotten a scene about the ability of them to be intimate post RoboCopping? Like, I don't mean, I just mean that's what I get with like, they didn't thought like she wants to have a life with him and maybe they're going to have a life together, but like we don't know how that would work other than he'd be this sort of robotic metallic creature walking around there.
New accessories.
Right.
He's not anatomically correct, right.
Yeah.
But there is one scene where he comes home for the first time in his suit and she goes to give him a hug and you hear the thud of her head against his breastplate.
Right.
Maybe it was intentional to make him so blank so that, you know, America can project its hopes and dreams onto this guy. Maybe that's the point, is that he's just an idea.
Wait, us America or the America in the movie?
The America in the movie.
Well, but then...
I think that's the point, that he's intentionally bland so everyone can say, here's who we want him to be. Ideally.
But that doesn't help us at all. I mean, you can present a blank image to the movie America, but the ticket buying America needs to know who the hell this guy is. You know?
Part of the problem with this movie too is that the supporting cast really overshadows Joel Kinnaman as the lead, right?
Michael Keaton's great.
Michael Keaton, Gary Oldman,
Jennifer Ely.
Jennifer Ely.
She's so great in this.
You know, Michael K. Williams. You know,
Jay Baruchel.
Jay Baruchel. All these actors completely overshadow Kinnaman. Like he's such a blank slate.
Jackie Earle Haley.
Jackie Earle Haley. Yeah, and
I like him
I think
being
they add to the movie. And again, this movie's fine, but I think that there was a lot of potential here that just kind of wasted.
There were moments that were really good, and I thought that, and particularly Keaton and Oldman, their roles were surprisingly meaty and complicated, and they had really good scenes. There, you know, as you guys know from doing the show with me, that my favorite Michael Keaton movie is The Paper, and there were moments where I was like, he's doing the guy from The Paper. It's great, and it works here as this sort of corporate power-hungry elitist.
Think about the original RoboCop. You know, you had like Ronnie Cox and Miguel Ferrer.
And their scenes together are great.
Yeah, Dan O'Hurley. Like those were, you know, I think that they knew going in that a lot of people would be like, what? You're going to remake RoboCop? How dare you? And the fact that it's not a disaster is, I think, making certain people go, what? No, it's way better than we thought it was going to be. It's like, well, yeah, because you thought it was going to be complete shit, and it's just sort of mediocre, you know.
Yeah, it is. It's overall, it's mediocre. I'm curious whether you guys think that, like, I think I'm ready to rule, and maybe I'm like 10 years late on this ruling. You guys will be like, yeah, duh. PG-13 was an enormous mistake.
It's just kind of bullshit.
Right. It lets people go half measure. Like, this movie could easily have been old-fashioned PG. We couldn't have seen the blood pool maybe as much, but we don't really see the violence. There's a lot of shooting.
Yeah. It's worth mentioning the director is Jose Padilla, who did Elite Squad. Yeah, so like he knows his way around an action scene, but an R-rated action scene.
Right. And I just think, like, you know, so make it. You know, I think this. The PG-13 has been an invitation more often than not to being tepid.
I mean, tepid, but also there's a massive amount of gunfire and a massive amount of carnage, but you don't really see the repercussions of it.
Yeah.
It's just like, look, World War Z is a PG-13 movie, you know?
Yeah. Well, that was done, I thought, there was a rare moment where I thought it was done pretty effectively.
But it's really a violent PG-13 movie.
Right.
Captain Phillips is a PG-13 movie.
Yeah, I mean, look, but that's a truly gifted director who managed to handle it fairly well.
The worst is the PG-13 horror movies, like that Prom Night remake, where people get stabbed but they don't bleed.
Yeah, right.
That's not the way that happens.
The blood gets
shockingly
back in your body.
We're all around the same place. You were lowest.
What was
4.5?
4.5, yeah.
What did I say, 6?
Yeah, you said 6.
I say 6.
You said 6.
6. It's all right.
I'm okay with 6.
All right. I said
it looks great. It's pretty cool looking.
Yeah,
it's
it is
fun.
cool looking. Yeah, and there were moments that were fun, and I think, you know, it really
cast.
started very strongly. I gave it a 5.5. And we're at 5.5 overall.
Yeah, and on the tomato meter, it's at 49% at the moment.
Yeah, it was 51% when I woke up this morning, and it had dipped under by the time we got here.
February is the new January.